meet your new best friends. You're gonna find a book you'll love to pieces. The girl behind the counter recommends dollar books and shelves of graphic novels. Titles old and new, you'll find them all. With action figures, board games, toys, and models to add to your new Comic Wednesday haul. The comic book store, the comic book store. 'Cause that's where the books live, but it's also much more. It's the heart of the art form that we all adore. Your friendly neighborhood comic book store.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Source Material Live. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And this week, we are looking at an independent book by one of the superstar writers of the comic book universe, Greg Rucka, most famous for his run on Wonder Woman, at least as far as I've been told. He did several books, as a matter of fact, that eventually got made into a television show on the ABC network. That book is called Stumptown. The very first issue of Stumptown debuted November 4th, 2009, and had an October 1st, 2009 cover date. And we're going to talk about it started as a 4-issue limited series regarding the case of the girl who took her shampoo but left her mini. And here to discuss that with me is the one and only Screaming Boy himself. Oh boy, it's Ronnie Adams. How do you do, sir?
I'm well. How are you, Mark?
I am very good. I have to ask, you came back to me, like
Yes.
Steve Trevor. And in this scenario,
dear.
I'm Wonder Woman. Yep, we're all, 2 minutes in, we're already weird.
All right, yeah. Well, I mean, I would be offended if we weren't. Yeah.
So I asked you to do this. I asked you, to talk about the book, and then I asked you to talk about the show later on this week for a TV party. What were you aware of this book? Do you have any affinity for Greg Rucka?
No.
Okay.
Somewhere down the line, I probably have, but not realized it, because I've read some Wonder Woman in the past and enjoyed it. But you basically said you threw it out there, and I was like, hey, I like stuff. Mark usually has a pretty good eye for stuff, except for Hanna-Barbera stuff that has been drugged through the coals and redone and made awful. Snagglepuss. But in all seriousness, I was like, this sounds like fun. This sounds like it could be interesting. So I wanted to, and I love independent stuff. So I was just like, hey, let's do this.
Yeah, I'm really trying to make an effort now to get out of the Marvel, DC, everything's a superhero.
Yeah.
Because I'm realizing through Comixology and some of these other places that I read digital comic books, there are, first of all, if you do enough research and do enough digging, you'll find stuff that you didn't even realize was based on a comic.
Absolutely.
There's a movie coming out next year. It was supposed to come out in May of this year. It's been delayed until February of next year, and Valentine's Day, as a matter of fact.
Shocker.
And it stars Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson, and it's about a pop star who marries a guy in the crowd who happens to have a sign that says, "Marry me," and hijinks ensue. And you're like, oh, stupid rom-com. Who would go see that? Why would anyone write this? Turns out based on a comic.
Really?
Yeah. Based on an independent webcomic that somebody scooped up and was like, movie this.
Webcomic, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of research for stuff to podcast about that's sort of off the beaten path, and I find apparently anyone in charge of content over on the Sci-Fi Network, all they do is turn comic books into television shows on that network. Holy cow! Everything is from a comic book.
I need to get cable just for that, then.
Yeah, really. I think our friend of the show, Andrew Graham, was talking about Wynonna Earp one day, based on a comic book.
Yeah,
can you believe it?
I knew that. Yeah,
yeah. So I'm going out of my way now to try to find a lot of these books that are out there, a lot of these independent titles, to sort of broaden my horizons. And
cough, cough, invincible, cough, cough.
It's coming. Amazon's already made a show of it, and apparently it's going to have multiple shows, so there'll be plenty of Invincible to go around. So in the course of doing that,
real quick, not to interrupt you,
sure.
I'm just making this public. Maybe Jesse, but no one else. That's mine. Back off, everyone. Okay, I'm done now.
What I missed what you said that you were making public. I'm going to make this public, and then there was silence, and then the next thing I heard was Jesse.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm making this public now. I call it. No one else. Everyone else in the network, back off. Invincible's mine, except for Jesse.
Okay, I will make it so. So anyway, well, we were talking before. What do I have you scheduled for? Apparently, it's going to be Invincible.
Yes. Yeah. I meant to mention that, but obviously I'm an idiot.
So, just to sort of move things forward here, I was looking through, I'll go through Wikipedia pages of different networks, and I'm looking at stuff, and I happen to like Colby Smulders. I liked her on How I Met Your Mother, and she plays Maria Hill in the Marvel movies, and she's a pretty decent actress. She hasn't done anything that's remarkably offensive.
No, not at all. Easy on the eyes.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I think she's very pretty.
Yeah, I think she's a good-looking broad.
I've missed that.
So, long story short, too late. I had noted when they first talked about Stumptown a year ago, I was interested, but it's hard for me to watch stuff that I'm not talking about, and I didn't think it was based on anything, so I just sort of let it go. And then I happened to find out that Stumptown was based on Greg Rucka's book from 2009, and I'm like, oh shit. Well, now I got to watch the show, and I did. I binged the whole thing. We're going to talk about it in a couple of days, and then I was like, we got to talk about the book too. And so that brings us to where we are now, where we're going to discuss. Now, he's done a couple of different iterations of Stumptown. This first one is a 4-part series, and this was basically the entire pilot of the show.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, issue number 1 here, I'm going to read the synopsis from Comic Vine. Superstar writer Greg Rucka, Whiteout Detective Comics, embarks on his first creator-owned series since the Eisner Award-winning Queen and Country. An homage to the Rockford Files. I know you used to watch the Rockford Files. You seem like a Rockford Files guy.
No. No.
You're not an 80-year-old man? Okay.
No, I'm not. I act like it sometimes, but I'm not.
And other detective shows of yore, this hard-boiled new series combines just the right amount of intrigue, humor, and charm. Dex is the proprietor of Stumptown Investigations and a fairly talented PI. Unfortunately, she's less adept at throwing dice than solving cases. Her recent streak has left her beyond broke. She's into the Confederated Tribes of the Wind Coast for 18 large. But maybe Dex's luck is about to change. Sue Lin, head of the Wind Coast casino operation, will clear Dex's debt if she can locate Sue Lin's missing granddaughter. But is this job Dex's way out of the hole or a shove down one much deeper? So I was going to go through the whole synopsis of the book here. Basically, it's a pretty breezy read, pretty easy story to understand. Dex is hired by Sue Lin to find her granddaughter who's gone missing, and if she finds her, they'll clear the $18,000 debt. As it turns out, the granddaughter got herself involved with some ne'er-do-well folks, and she went on the run to get away from them. And they're looking for her because she has information on... she was helping a ex-boyfriend, steal artifacts from dig sites. And she has that information, and they need to make sure that she doesn't do anything with that information that would get them in trouble with the law, whatever. So the hunt is on for this girl, and they're trying to keep, and there's an effort to keep Dex away from her. They try paying her off. They try getting rough with her. She ends up in the trunk of a car and being shot at one point, and all of that. Eventually, she does find the granddaughter. All is revealed, and she ends up... I forget how what the exact resolution. And I know she at one point she tries to make a deal with the mob boss, and she bluffs her way through that. But then something else happens. Do you remember how the story ends?
Yes, she ends up double crossing him, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on, I've got the comic pulled up. It's been a couple of days since I read it.
Yeah, I read it yesterday and I've already lost it.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't feel too bad now. But I mean, as far as the ending goes, it's one of those ones that I was like, I was happy with, but it was, it's like, oh, okay, I could have kind of saw that coming. But
well, I know. Okay, so
is.
the mob boss shoots the boyfriend's son.
Yeah, So they've got everything. Yeah, I've got it pulled up here.
If I remember correctly, part of it is they agree to do the exchange, but then the son, her ex-boyfriend, shows up, and he's like, "Let me just shoot her," and the father ends up shooting him instead because he's a giant fuck up and a pain in the ass.
Right. So yeah, he's got him. Yeah, it's crazy eyes. You can't let her do this to, and then I think they're speaking. He was speaking in, I'm not sure, Spanish maybe in this.
Mm-hmm. I think there was from El Salvador.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Spanish. I told you to stay out of this, Oscar. Go home. She'll have a boot on her neck, thinking that that Dex is going to be the one that turns everything around and turns them in and all that. And then she basically just says it's over, and they start to walk off. And when he goes to shoot her, that's when the dad shoots him, and the kind of the end. They walk off into the moonlight together.
Yeah. All right, so let's just talk about it kind of generally here. What did you think of this 4-issue limited series?
It was good. I mean, obviously, it wasn't anything like ground setting because I would have remembered exactly how it ended, or ground shaking, ground breaking, I should say. But honestly, it was good. I actually really sometimes I'm a little shaky with art like this, but I enjoyed the art. And the opening is what grabbed me. The first few pages where it shows, the car, the gangsters pulling her out of the trunk, and then the gunshots, and her falling off a bridge into the water. And I'm like, what the crap is this? And then it's like 27 hours earlier. I'm like, okay, so we're, I'm not an 80-year-old man who watches the Rockford Files, but I do enjoy a good detective show. So it definitely had a strong opening for me that got me hooked. And as far as the hook, the gambling debt, and everything was I was like, okay, that's pretty solid. That's how you get her to help. And then the fact that she has a brother with Down syndrome in it, that she's kind of the angel with the dirty wings kind of thing going on. Mm-hmm. She does what she does to help her brother, but also she blows rent on because she has a gambling habit. So it was pretty cool. I mean, like, I enjoyed it. I was like, went into it with no expectations like I do, but ended up liking it. Not enough probably to continue it on, but it was a good read. I haven't read anything different in a while, and this was just different enough to go, okay, I like that, to get away from the superheroes and the things that I've read in the past.
One of the things that's different about the book from the pilot, and I don't want to talk too much about the show, we'll save that for Wednesday, but sure. One of the major differences, and I kind of preferred it in the book, that's why I wanted to talk about it, was that she starts out already as a working PI.
Yes, absolutely.
She already has a relationship with the Portland PD, and mm-hmm. there's a detective that she's already kind of working with. It's alluded to that she has an established negative relationship with the captain. It's only they only have one interaction, but it's alluded to like her sleeping with the captain's wife or something like that.
Right.
Like somehow like she broke up their marriage or whatever. They don't get into a lot of detail. I'm assuming this is something that he picks up later on. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't read any more Stumptown than this, but I like the fact that, as opposed to the television show where she came back from Afghanistan and went through this 7-year period of standing still, and,
right.
And the show picks up where her life is forced to go in a direction of some kind.
Right.
And she's dealing with like post-traumatic stress disorder and all that. This one, she's an already working PI. She already has established relationships, and the only similarity is her tie to the casino, which in the book they didn't really talk anything about her relationship with Sue Lin outside of she owes her money.
Right. I like the development and the relationship with her and Sue Lin. I like the development of that in the show better, but I need a little more from the book on that.
Yeah, I think the show fleshes out some things nicely.
Yeah.
There's obviously more of the show than there was of this book. Like, let's just pretend for a moment
absolutely.
that all that existed was this 4-issue series. All you're getting is this one case. So
right.
there's not a lot of time to flesh some things out. I mean, I feel like they spent some time with her and the white female detective. There's clearly a relationship there, and they kind of go back and forth a little bit. But the detective clearly cares for Dex. But you get that because Dex had just been shot.
Right. Right.
So, like, you don't really get much more than that. You do get to see the relationship with her and her brother is exactly like it is in the show.
Yes.
He likes soccer, and he cares about Dex and is worried about her, and leaves a little suspicious that Dex might be going off the deep end, but he's what he is, and she takes care of him. You don't get a whole lot from the bar owner. Jake Johnson, who plays the character in the show, has a lot to do.
And I actually like that character in the show.
Right. But he doesn't have nearly as much. He's there for Ensel, who's the brother. He's not really there for much of it, and he clearly cares about Dex too, and the little bit that they give him to say and do. But that's about it. The book itself deals with her trying to figure out doing detective work and trying to figure out where this girl ends up. And so it departs from the show in that in the show, there's people trying to kidnap the girl, and the girl ran off with a boy and all of this other stuff. That all tracks. Here in the book, it's a little bit different in that the girl went into hiding. She didn't run off with anybody. She went into hiding from this family. Yeah. Which I liked. I liked, the introduction of the El Salvadorian mob boss, and, her, like, I'm going to pay you twice as much if you just tell me where she is when you find her. And so it's kind of the race is on to try to find where this girl is. And the story is, like I was saying before, she was dating the son of the mob boss, and they were working together to rob dig sites, and I guess she tired of it, didn't want to do it anymore, broke away from him, and it all kind of went to crap after that.
Have you ever seen the movie Lucky Number 11?
No, I have not.
The plot kind of put me in the mind of the story, put me in the mind of that movie. Because it's very much a play off of one another, play one side against the other kind of deal, which she doesn't do too bad. But I mean, there's definitely two involved parties that want to find this girl for different reasons. One is because it's her grandma and she wants to look for her. It's grandmother, right? Yeah. And the other is there's some dirtiness going on, and they want to figure out what's what, and find out who, what, when, where, and all that, and probably do away with her eventually. So, as far as the whole 4-issue goes, it was good, but I see myself giving it that, and that's about it.
You don't think you'd come back to this to read another iteration of Stumptown?
No, I mean I would be hard pressed. I mean, like, I like the characters, but I did not have enough invested in Dex to really come back to it, to see what, the further adventures. Mm-hmm.
I think Greg Rucka did a good job of making her charming.
Yeah, absolutely. But I didn't have enough invested in her. Mm-hmm. Other than her brother. I wanted her to succeed for her brother, but, that's a completely different dynamic right there. I mean, am I supposed to come back to read about her to see what happened to her brother or her? She's the main character in the storyline. Mm-hmm. So it's a rough row to hoe on that as far as with me. Like, she was cool, she was everything, but she wasn't what I'm like, it's a good movie,
Yeah.
But they don't need to make anything else. They don't need, if there was a sequel, I wouldn't be interested in it.
That's the funny thing. Like, I can absolutely see why this got made into a television show.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's got a great premise. And I can see where they were like, okay, we can take it and make it. Like, I haven't read anything past it, so I don't know if any of the episodes match up with the rest of the books. But, her being a PI, you could make the new Murder, She Wrote out of it. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's the first detective show that came to mind, not detective, but
Well, let me ask you a question.
Show.
If you were working with Greg Rucka, and he hands you this 4-issue story, would you tell him, like, because I think the next one that takes place is like 2011.
Wow. Yeah.
So clearly, like, he took a break from this for a little bit.
Yeah.
Trying to. Gosh, I hate this site. Looking at, there's 2 more of these. There's Stumptown from 2012, so there's like a 3-year gap, and then there's another one from 2016. So this is something that he apparently just periodically went back to when he had the time and the inspiration. I'm wondering, because you were saying, like, this isn't something I would feel the need to continue reading if you saw it, a few years later up on the bookshelf. And I'm wondering if maybe 4 issues just wasn't enough. Like, maybe if this had been 6 or 12 issues.
Maybe.
And
flesh her out a little more.
Yeah.
As far as she goes, I can tell she loves her brother, but she also gambles a lot. And that's unfortunately, that's the extent of her personality for me.
They don't...
and she likes girls as well as guys. That's about it.
Well, who doesn't?
I like girls. Women. I like women. Let me get that right.
Yes, sir. To the NSA agent currently listening to this podcast, neither one of us does stuff with children.
Right.
So anyway, in the show, it's revealed pretty early on that she's got some post-traumatic stress disorder, and then as the show goes on, it talks about, what happened to her in Afghanistan and how it's mentally affected her. It's caused her to drink. It's caused her to gamble. It's caused her to not be able to hold down a job. It's how she ends up being a PI. In the show, she doesn't even start off as a PI. She's doing a favor for Sue Lin to get out of gambling debt. And then it turns out she's good at it, and it suits her current state of mind and her financial needs. In this one, you get none of that. This is another case.
Right.
And I think even Sue Lin says, like, I'll pay your fee, and I'll wipe your gambling debt free, because I guess she didn't necessarily want to take the case at first. Like, so I can see where you're saying, like, there's not they don't do a lot with her. She's just sort of a smirking, charming, ne'er-do-well detective type. The
right.
guts of the story are what's interesting. It's like, ooh, why did the girl run away? Did she run away? Did she get kidnapped? Who has her? And then, like, there's the brother and sister character. We talked a lot about the brother. We haven't really mentioned the sister. But, like, she meets the sister when she goes and talks to the mob boss. And then she becomes a bigger character as the story unfolds. And, like, well, okay, that's interesting. And, again, none of these people are involved in the television show.
Right.
And then, there's some stuff that happens to her. She gets locked in a trunk. She gets shot. She ends up stealing a car at one point. There's some fun things that happen throughout the book, but that's kind of it. Like you said, she's not a particularly well fleshed out character. She's just sort of there doing a thing.
And I mean, it could happen later on in the series. I don't know, or in later issues, not the series. These were miniseries, to the best of my knowledge. It could have happened then, but I mean, like, draw me in now. When I find myself, it wasn't a particularly great show, but when I find myself more caught up in how fleshed out the main character of the show is, other than the source material, I'm like, there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
So, like, she's more, to me, the PTSD, storyline. Everybody's like, I've heard people actually say who have never dealt with it, that's kind of overplayed or whatever. I'm like, well, you don't know. I know people with post traumatic. It's a big thing that needs more attention. But that added depth to the character and added a little more, this is why she does this.
Right.
She's coping with these bad things that happen badly. She's coping with them very badly. But she, you could still tell that she absolutely loves her brother. And this one, it felt almost like, she loves him, but she tolerates him at some points.
Yeah.
She's only a bad, she only drinks and smokes and does all that stuff, or not smokes, but drinks and gambles just because she wants to drink and gamble.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, in the show, they also talk about her relationship to Su Lin vis-a-vis the boyfriend that she once had, who Su Lin broke them up, and the guy ended up marrying another fellow Native American, and then allegedly went to join the service to be with Dex. And then and we'll talk more about this on Wednesday, but he ends up getting killed in what she believed to just be an IED, and she has survivor's guilt, among other things, because she couldn't have... She thought if she had questioned a detainee better, she could have gotten the information that would have prevented him from being killed by the IED. Turns out that none of that's the case, but we'll get to that Wednesday. None of that's in the book either.
Yeah, no. I mean, she was in the Army in the book, and I can't remember. There was no war. There was, she was, to my knowledge, in the book, she wasn't involved in any conflict. She was Army intelligence, maybe, in the book. I can't remember what they said she was. That's terrible. I should know. I should remember. But so there was none of that. There was no redeeming qualities about her. As far as who she was. I like the fact that she is a more than capable private investigator and everything. They could even leave her PI origin story out of it for all I care. I like the fact that she's already established as a PI to a point, and everything. But tell me why she does this other stuff. Tell me why, maybe in passing, tell why she became a PI.
I think it goes back to what we were saying a few minutes ago about the good part about the book is the case itself. The bad part is you have a main character who isn't really at all fleshed out.
Right, absolutely. And the story was great as far as that is concerned. I like the back and forth, the one faction against the other, the Romeo and Juliet of it all. But it's I don't know. There was something missing with her.
Yeah.
And call me a sucker. I needed a little more with the brother.
Mm-hmm.
I needed more interaction with him from her. I needed more interaction with just anybody, really.
Yeah, like you don't really you get a lot with with them in the show, but you don't really get a sense of like the relationship with her and the bartender. Like you can see from the book. See, that's the problem. Like I saw the show first, then I read the book. So in my mind, I was inferring a lot of things. But if I try to just wipe my mind clean of the show and just focus on the book, you don't necessarily get a sense of why he feels the need to take care of the brother or Dex. He's just a good dude. Mm-hmm. You know, he doesn't really have a character beyond that. So I would say, sort of wrapping the discussion, I think if you're looking for a breezy detective, like a pulp detective read, it works on that level. If you're looking for like well-developed characters and relationships, the book is kind of devoid of that. It focuses on the pulp and not really on the characterizations.
I'm a sucker for a good pulp, pulp detective story. There's another game I play called Call of Cthulhu, which is a lot of fun, and I think you particularly would enjoy, mainly because no, you wouldn't, because you hate horror. But there's Pulp Cthulhu, in Call of Cthulhu happens in the 20s and the 30s anyway, and but there's also that detective aspect of it as well. Pulp Cthulhu,
does it have to do with Ma Rainey's Black Bottom?
Pardon me?
You said it takes place in the 20s, so I asked you if it has to do with Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
It does not, and I have not seen that yet.
Oh, actually, you have not seen Ma Rainey's Black Bottom? Let me tell you, it's lovely.
There's so many things in my head right now that don't need to be there. But no, I have not seen Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
You really should. You should look directly at Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Yeah. Okay, that confirms it right there. What I was thinking was true. Where you were going with that, but no. But have you seen Lovecraft Country?
No, and you're like the 88th person to tell me like I should be watching Lovecraft Country. It's on my list now, especially because I want to know what the hell Robert and Alexis were talking about for 2.5 hours. But also, like, I didn't realize that it was, sure, it's horror, but also black folks. I'm like, oh, well.
You know me with the topical stuff.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy topical stuff because a lot of times I feel like people are just pushing out content to push out content to say, hey, we did this, like us.
Yeah, I don't think you were a huge fan of the Watchmen series for that reason.
No, I really wasn't, mainly because I feel like it's one of those things where I'm like, they're saying, hey, we're woke, we're topical, we're listening, and you're really not. You're just wanting to. It's a cash grab. If you're going to make a topic about it, then make a topic, or make content about the topic. I don't care if you do or not. If it's good, it's good. If it does the subject justice, even, I mean, like that's the most important right there. But if you're just doing it to say we did it and to tick a box, go home. Lovecraft Country does not. It doesn't give me that feel.
Okay.
There's a lot of fleshed out stuff in it, and I really liked it. And I'm a fan of Lovecraft, and I think it's a big FU to the way he thought, because he was very problematic in the way in his thinking. But of course, he was alive in the early 20th century, 1900s, 1920s, whatever. Not that doesn't excuse it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think we've said something similar about Alan Moore.
Alan Moore's just crazy.
Where Alan Moore had a perspective, and I think he did some very interesting things on the stuff that he worked on. Certainly, I gushed over like his run on Swamp Thing, especially the anatomy lesson. But I think, but some of his opinions and his approaches to things were also problematic, and I think it was just he was the
man believes in sex magic.
Well, who doesn't?
I believe in magical sex, but not sex magic.
What I was going with this is I believe when we talked about Alan Moore at length, I believe one of the things we said was like, yeah, he has an interesting perspective. He also has some of his thoughts and ideas are also very problematic, but I think he's a and victim isn't the right word. He's a product of his time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the way Lovecraft is too. But I enjoy his stuff. It's very intelligent horror. But it makes you think, and it creeps you out, but it's also not like gore for the sake of gore. That's why I think you probably kind of like it.
Sorry, go ahead.
But back to Stumptown, back to where we were.
Yeah.
I like a good pulp story. I really do. Mm-hmm. But even then, if you're not saying, well, the dame walked in and she was all leg and everything else, within the first 5 minutes, you're gonna have to get me some story, man. Mm-hmm. So,
did you ever read Brubaker's Hollywood noir murder story? Oh gosh,
Ed Brubaker.
Yeah.
Gosh, what was it called?
I'm looking it up now.
Yeah.
We Bailey and I are part of like this like comic book club, and so stuff that like we don't talk about on the podcast we'll do as part of this like group blog, and that's actually the first one that we did.
Right, it's literally called Noir. No, Fade Out.
Fade Out. Yes, the Fade Out.
Fade Out.
Yep,
was amazing to me. Mm-hmm. I loved it.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised no one's done anything with the Fade Out yet.
Yeah, me too. Well, I mean, I was L.A. Confidential and all these smoky. I call them smoky detective stories because everybody's smoking in it. Because it was the 1920s. That's what you did, man.
Yeah.
But I love that stuff, and that's and Stumptown definitely gave me that feel, and I enjoyed that. But also, the Fade Out had some fleshed out characters, had some unless it's going to be absolutely just pulpy. Give me some character development. Give me some, give me a likable or redeemable main character, if anything. They can be a complete scumbag, but if you give me a reason why they're a scumbag, I'll follow it. I'll go along on your story. So, not saying that Dex is a scumbag in this, but she's definitely not the best person in the world, gambling the rent away and everything, especially when she's taking care of her brother. But, also when they fleshed it out and, in the TV show, like you said, we'll talk about at length later on, there was a reason behind that. And there was no reason behind this. I'm like, well, I don't really give a crap if she gets shot in the head or not. Let's get the girl back. If she gets the girl back and they plug her, I mean, whatever. But like I said, it was only 4 issues, so there could be some redeeming qualities to her that I haven't read yet. But this one didn't give anything.
Okay. Let's call it there because we'll have a lot more to talk about on Wednesday with the show. So we were talking about Lovecraft and Alan Moore. The other one I was thinking about was Tolkien, and that one's on my mind because I just watched Fellowship and then The Two Towers in IMAX, and I brought my daughter who's 10 years old, and she's got a lot of very very strong opinions.
It's in her eyes, man. I'm telling you, I don't trust her.
Especially where women are concerned.
Yeah.
Very feminist opinions. And, we were talking after The Two Towers, she was like, I don't understand if there's a horde of 10,000 monsters, raining down on you, why not hand some of the women swords? I'm just saying. And I said, Lily, it was written by a guy who who fought in World War I and thought the world was ending, and his primary concern was, well, where are the women right now? His primary concern was, the world's on fire and I'm going to die. And The Lord of the Rings is a reflection of that. And the women just weren't on the front lines in World War I. They might have been nurses. They were back home. They were doing other things. He's also writing about a fantasy age of antiquity, not anything close to modern times. And I'm going to tell you, throughout history, where you have knights and whatnot, you don't have a lot of women fighting. That's just not what they did, and that's what this is a reflection of.
Right. I mean, let me just say this. Also, chivalry is still a thing.
Sure.
I fully expect whenever I find the one that she is going to be able to take care of herself. In fact, that's what I look for. I look for a woman who's smart enough and capable enough to to make sure she's taken care of. She can earn her own money. She can pump her own gas. She can do all this stuff. I don't want somebody who's like, oh, I don't know how to do anything. That's annoying. But also, I'm looking for somebody that will let me take care of her because I want to. That's my love language, basically. I want to show them how much I care by doing things because I am a chivalrous person in nature. And that comes out when I write, when I tell stories, and when I do all these other things, because that's just how I was raised. It doesn't mean I think less of them. It just means I think more of them than I think of myself, and I want to do things for them. So when it comes to, if something, to coin a phrase that I've heard in the South, when the crap hits the fan, if it were to happen, I would be like the one, be like, hey, get in the back, I'll take care of it. So it doesn't mean I don't think that women aren't capable of it. It's just I would just rather throw myself out there first. Besides, if there are no women, there are no extra people because they give birth to us.
I only bring that up just sort of. We were talking about the the authors, and the authors write from their point of view and their life experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tolkien was absolutely. Look, I mean, I don't know if you've ever saw the movie with the guy who played Beast.
Not yet, but it's in my queue. Okay. I want to.
I saw that.
Oh, Tolkien.
Yeah, I saw that when it was in the theaters, and and a lot of the movie is are his experiences that led to the writing of Lord of the Rings, and it's been said time and time again that Lord of the Rings was sort of his reflection on his time in World War I.
Right, and his his values, his beliefs, his faith comes out in that.
Right. And so I'd be curious just to sort of wind this back into like Greg Rucka and everything. What where he's drawing his inspirations from. Why he. I remember like reading the first volume of his run on Wonder Woman, and there wasn't like a tremendous amount of action in it, but like it was very, very political, and it was sort of a very weird volume of comics. But it ends with her killing Max Lord.
Yes,
spoilers.
yeah,
kind
of awesome.
I thought that's where the Wonder Woman movie was going. By the way, I just recently listened to. I just recently listened to our review of the Wonder Woman movie, and I remember saying at that time, like, yeah, I totally thought that's the direction they were going. I'm like, oh my god, she's going to kill Max Lord.
I thought she was going to twist his head around like in the book.
Yeah, and then she just nags him to death.
She really does. She really does. I mean, like, I don't know where they were going with this, to be honest with you, but it did not work out the way they wanted it to, I don't think.
Yeah. We don't want you to do a big CGI monster fight. Well, what if she just complains?
There was one punch thrown by Wonder Woman in the movie. One. Wonder Woman stabs people with a sword in the comic books.
Yep.
I mean, and don't get me started on Batman versus Superman and the Justice League, where she was sword and shield and cutting people's arms off, and Doomsday. Things like that. It's who she is. She's Amazonian. Come on. Sorry. That's my old man Ronnie coming out right now. Sorry.
All right. More Wednesday. In the meantime, that's our review of Stumptown Volume 1. I think I would go back and read the 2012 and 2016 iterations. But I think that's more of I'm just looking, this is much like Gotham Central. Like I just want to finish the series. Yeah, like just
I get that.
Just get them off my shelf. That sort of thing.
I would think I would go back after hearing you say, "Hey, it's actually pretty good."
Yeah.
I would need your validation on it.
Fair enough. All right, what are you working on these days, Ronnie?
Hey, I am actually I'm actually a streamer now, which is weird. I never thought I would do that. There are several things in my repertoire. There are a couple things I do. Uh, One of them is Dungeons and Dragons. I love Dungeons and Dragons and basically any tabletop role playing game. And I do that online. The streaming channel that I have is called Misfits and Miscreants, where we are currently streaming two separate games. One is the one I run on Tuesday nights called Curse of Strahd, which is if you're not familiar with it, it is a vampire based, it's based around a vampire lord that's running this, it's fantasy, it's magic, it's swords, it's sorcery, it's wonderful, and it has vampires. So it's a lot of fun. I've got a good group that really that likes to interact with each other, and we want you to come out and watch us and have fun with us and talk to us and enjoy the story that we're weaving. The other one is every other Saturday. We'll say this Saturday we'll be going live on Twitch. So every other Saturday after that, we have one called Trouble in Winterhold. So Trouble in Winterhold is a game that I'm playing in, and then my DM mentor, Dungeon Master mentor, Wade, is actually running for us. So it's a lot of fun. We roll dice, we fight monsters, we talk to we laugh, we role play. It's been a blast. I also run games for people, for whoever. I run one shots and things like that online. So I'm dipping my toe in the professional DM arena a little bit. So I do that. We are on Twitch, Misfits and Miscreants. We have a Facebook page under the same name. We have a Twitter that is Miss and Misc D&D. Don't really use it a lot because I feel like Twitter's a trash hole right now. But Instagram is Misfits and Miscreants, and TikTok is Misfits and Miscreants, which unfortunately I do the TikTok with the kids and the dance. I don't do the dancing and the stuff like that, but we have some fun on TikTok. So it's not all the devil. But we're on that. So any kind of social media platform, come hang out with us. Come hang out with us when we do our shows. We love it. And in between those, I actually play video games online and talk to people and do Q&As. And I do a lot of I've been doing some unboxing of some D&D stuff and games. We have future plans on playing card games and board games online as well, just kind of do a review of them. So far, they've been a blast as well. And that's what I've been going on. Sorry, I am long-winded.
All right, and he's going to be back this Wednesday to talk about the Stumptown show. And then in a couple of weeks, let's see if I can find that on here. Actually, in May, he will be on. He's already done source material Invincible Volume 1. That will be released as a syndicated source material in May, but he's going to come back live and do Volume 2. 8 is Enough, not the television show, this comic book, on Monday, May 24th. And then he'll be back on May 26th. I actually did already put you on for this. We'll be talking the first season of Invincible on Amazon Prime.
And I will consume that like life-giving water. Because I love Invincible, and that is one of the few comic books that I started from number 1 and went to the very last issue and have reread several times.
All right. In the meantime, in between time, as we were doing this, Sean Comer and Robert Winfrey were doing a Damn You Hollywood Without Me. We were supposed to do it Thursday, but schedules got in the way, and so they are recording as we speak, and they are talking Space Sweepers from Netflix, the Korean space fantasy drama thing. Tomorrow, we will be reviewing NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day, and then on Damn You Hollywood, myself, Alexis Hana, and Robert Winfrey will be talking Willy's Wonderland, which is getting all kinds of fun reviews. The aforementioned Stumptown, and then Thursday, Jesse is back. I'm back. Metal Hammer of Doom. Serenia, Riddles, Ruins, and Revelations. We'll be talking about that. And then Friday, we have a special edition of the Damn You Hollywood show. A little bit speaking of nags, I've been getting nagged lately by Alexis Hana to do more prestige films nominated for Golden Globes and Oscars and whatnot. And I was like, okay, but that's not really what I like talking about. She was like, but let me pitch you this idea. And I said, okay, what? She said, black folks. And I was like, you're right. So,
Dear God, man.
So we're going to be doing a review of Judas and the Black Messiah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I got to tell you a quick story. I mentioned this in the chat, but I'll tell it on here. So I'm at work, and we're talking movies and whatnot, like we are wont to do. And Sorry, go ahead. And so we're training this one lady. She's a nurse practitioner, and we're training her to work in the department that I work in at the jail. And we're just kind of talking movies back and forth. And she says something about Top Gun. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I'll see it when it gets closer to when the sequel comes out. She's like, you've never seen Top Gun? And I'm like, no, I've seen a lot of things. I've seen the Aliens and the Predators and the Indiana Joneses and the Star Warses and the Star Treks. It's the one fucking movie I missed in the 80s. Sorry. I was like 7 and I saw Porky's, but I missed fucking Top Gun. Too busy watching Hamburger, the movie, I guess, because even as a young child, I liked tits. Anyway, but I missed Top Gun. And I didn't say all that. I just said I didn't say
because you are still employed.
Correct. Weirdly, you will get marched down to Human Resources if you just blurt out in the middle of a common work area, I like tits.
Right.
I don't know why, but women take that the wrong way.
I don't either. Wait, what?
So this, I have to. Her race is an important detail of the story for what I'm going to say next. This African American lady is amazed that I haven't seen Top Gun, and she's like, "I'm going to have to pull your white card now." I'm like, my what now? She's like, your white card. You no longer get to be white if you haven't seen Top Gun. And I'm like, well, I wasn't aware that was the rule. As somebody who has studied the book closely, but okay, I will.
Coming from somebody that's been white most of his life, I would say I was unaware of that rule as well.
Yeah, but she pulls my white card, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm not white anymore. Whatever. So the next day, I'm in another work area, and there's 2 nurses, both African American, and a deputy African American, and the deputy's like, I don't want to do XYZ, and I'm like, who gives a shit what you like? Just give out sandwiches and sign my document now. And as I am wont to do.
Right.
And the 2 nurses are like, oh! And they're fanning themselves, and they have the vapors. And they're like, how do you get away with that? And the deputy's like, I've known Mark forever. Everyone's reaction to me. Like, that's just Mark. We get
That's just Mark.
it. And so the young lady, African-American nurse, says to me, she's like, no, I gotta test you to see if you're worthy of talking to another black person that way. And I'm like, all right. She's like, all right, let's see if we can invite you to the barbecue. Question 1. Sweet potato pie or pumpkin pie? I'm like, oh, sweet potato pie. She's like, I feel like you just said that because you know what black people like. Next question.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. That would have been my answer, too, and I don't like sweet potato pie.
Okay. So she's like, I'm going to throw that one out. She's like, name 2 black movies. And she gave me like another set of criteria that like, and don't do the obvious ones. I guess
what would be the obvious ones to her?
I'm thinking like the Medea series. I don't know. But
that's
she was like,
not a black movie. That's an offensive movie at some points.
I don't know what she thought I was going to say, but what I ended up saying was I'm going to get you Sucka, which is one of my favorite comedies ever.
Yeah.
And she was like taken aback. First of all, I'm a 45-year-old man. I was very much alive when that movie was the thing.
Yeah.
But she was like taken aback that I knew what that movie was. She was like, "Oh, that counts as 2 movies. You're in." And then there was a question about this. Then there was a question about Tabasco sauce. I'm like, "Nope, still white." Whatever the tabletop Tabasco sauce is in your average Mexican restaurant, that's what I'm bringing. In any case, her and the other guy decided that I was an honorary black person.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah. I was beaming with pride.
I mean, I would be too, man. Mainly because, like, okay, if I were asked that question, I guess my 2 movies would have been Harlem Nights.
Okay, that's a good one.
And
I said I did give a second one. I said Juice.
Juice. Okay, yeah, I remember that from the chat. So I had a little bit of advantage over the listeners, but Juice is a great, is a great choice as well as far as a movie goes because I really like that movie.
Do the Right Thing.
I would have chosen Harlem Nights and Boys in the Hood.
Okay. If I had a little bit more time to think about it, like think hard, I probably would have said Do the Right Thing.
Do the Right Thing is good too. I'm not a huge Spike Jonze fan, but I know,
Spike Lee.
Spike Lee. I said Spike Jonze. Wow.
Yep.
And I'm not invited anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say, could you have found a whiter Spike to have?
Absolutely not. That is the whitest Spike ever.
Yeah.
Spike Lee. I'm not a big fan of Spike Lee, but there are a few movies that I like that that are groundbreaking, that are thought provoking, things like that. But as time went on, the only movie that I've liked that Spike Lee has directed was Inside Man.
I liked Malcolm X.
I did not.
Really? Wow,
yeah.
Okay. I really enjoyed Malcolm X. I like Do the Right Thing. Yeah. I'm trying to think of like his later stuff because I know I can't remember the first one that he did. I want to say She's All That, but that's not right.
No, it's not.
It's not She's All That.
She's All That. That is a Freddie Prinze Jr. movie.
I have to look this up now. His very first one, I don't remember liking that one, but the one that I became aware of Spike Lee was Do the Right Thing.
Yeah,
and it was mostly because of Public Enemy.
Boys in the Hood was just one.
She's Gotta Have It. That's what I was.
She's Gotta Have It. That's I was kicking my own butt over not remembering what that was.
Crooklyn and Clockers, I both liked. I probably was the only white person on earth that saw Get on the Bus.
Yeah. No, you're not. The Five Bloods. I wanted to see that.
That's on my list of things to watch.
Yeah. But those are some great. I mean, you really outdid yourself on that. I mean, you went to bat for us, man.
Thanks.
School Days. That's the one I was thinking of.
Okay.
Because School Days, he directed that, of course, but it was what's the freak? Lawrence Fishburne.
Yep.
I kept wanting to call him Morpheus. Just stop. Or, at least it's not Cowboy Curtis.
Speaking of honorary black folks, we talked about Black Panther Volume 1, The Client, a week ago. I did that with Evan Bevins and Chris Sheehan. We talked Disenchantment Season 3.
Wasn't a fan.
Oh, really? Oh, we liked it.
Yeah. I just couldn't get into Disenchantment.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think we pretty much had not very little bad to say about it. I think my only issue was when I binged it. I was telling Robert, you're gonna have to do the plot stuff because I can't remember what happened in this show. I just remember liking it,
right? Which
makes for a great review. Let me tell you. We reviewed the new Corporal Kalani, and that was it. It was a short week last week. We didn't do as much. All right, we've been rambling on for a while about this and that. So I want to thank Ronnie Adams for joining me tonight to talk Stumptown and honorary black folks and writing from one's point of view and feminism and all kinds of ill shit.
Still don't trust your daughter.
I understand. Shifty eyes. Like a Chinaman. For Ronnie Adams, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.